Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel. I am Nick from Australia. Welcome to the Parramatta Eels 2020 season review. Hope everyone's doing well on this Tuesday afternoon, November 24th, 2020. It's currently 4:50 p.m. in the afternoon. Hope you guys are all doing very well. If you haven't seen my Sydney Roosters review, I uploaded it about an hour ago. If you haven't seen it yet, go and check it out. I'm going to be getting into the Parramatta Eels one as well this afternoon, so 2 videos in one day. Hope everyone's enjoying the content. But before I get into my Parramatta Eels 2020 season review, I just want to give a quick shout out to a very loyal subscriber to the channel. This certain individual has been subscribed to my YouTube channel for quite some time. He's a Parramatta Eels supporter. He's a very loyal supporter of the channel, and his name is Ali A300. Mate, thank you so much for the support. Some of your kind words have been absolutely fantastic. Apparently, my videos have, made his life a lot better or something. So, I appreciate those sort of comments. They mean a lot. And I just want to say, Ali, thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch my videos. And thank you to everyone who does watch my videos every day or every time I upload. So, I just want to say thank you and I appreciate it. And I hope to get the support in the future as well going forward. So thank you to Ali and thank you to everyone who has subscribed to the channel. Anyway, let's get into the Parramatta Eels 2020 season review. They finished in 3rd position this year. A very good season for the Parramatta Eels. Let's go through the draw. Let's go through some of their games this season, some of their best wins and worst losses. So it all started in round 1 where they knocked off the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs in the big rivalry match, probably the second biggest rivalry in rugby league, Parramatta versus Canterbury at Bankwest Stadium, where the Eels won that game 8-2 in a low-scoring, grinding game. Like I said, Parramatta versus Canterbury, every time they play each other, both teams hate each other. There's no love lost between them. They hate each other's guts, So for Parramatta to win the opening game of 2020 to defeat their big rivals is good for Parramatta. So they won that 8-2. Then they went up to the Gold Coast and they absolutely thrashed the Gold Coast Titans, 46-6. And then it was the, obviously the 6-week COVID lockdown, no football, nothing was on, the season was on mute basically. Then when they restarted on May 28, the Eels went up and played the Broncos and they absolutely gave it to the Broncos, 34-6. A very impressive win for Parramatta. At this point, they're 3-0 to start the year. They're looking very, very good. Then they had a game against the Seagulls in round 4 where, if you remember correctly, Tommy Turbo threw a pass, Manly score on the bell to win the game. I called it back for a forward pass. Parramatta got very lucky in that game. So at this stage, Parramatta are 4-0 to start the year. They're looking absolutely magnificent. Then they took on the Penrith Panthers in the Western Sydney Derby, whatever you want to call it. The Panthers led 10-0, and then Parramatta scored about 3 tries in about 6 minutes. I remember Walker Blake just going berserk, and Parramatta won that game 16-10. Parramatta start the season 5-0. They are looking very good. They are one of the premiership favourites. They're sitting first on the competition ladder. And then in round 6, they took on the ultimate test up against the Sydney Roosters. They went down to the Roosters 24-10. But I guess the good thing for Parramatta in that game, the highlight, was Mike Acevo running over the top of James Tedesco, pretty much knocking out James Tedesco. So that was a pretty good moment for Mike Acevo and the Parramatta side. Then they had, in my opinion, their best win of the season, where they knocked off the Canberra Raiders 25-24. Now, this game had everything. I remember the game well. I'm pretty sure it went to golden point from memory. It was 24-12 Parramatta, and the Canberra scored 2 tries in the last 4 or 5 minutes, 24 all. Parramatta lost Mitchell Moses at half-time, so Parramatta had to play a whole second half without their halfback, and Dylan Brown took control along with Clint Gutherson, and Parramatta won that game 25-24 due to a Clint Gutherson field goal, so that was just guts from Parramatta. So that was a great win. Then they played the Cowboys at Bankwest Stadium, and they absolutely thrashed my team, the Cowboys, 42-4. Then they were too good for the Knights, 10-4. Then they were beaten against Manly in the big rivalry game. Probably Parramatta's second biggest rival, Manly. They lost that one, 22-18. Then they were too good for the West Tigers, winning that one, 26 points to 16. Then they had the biggest rivalry that Parramatta have against was the Bulldogs. They took on the Bulldogs again. And fuck me, the Bulldogs were a chance here, but Parramatta, they held on and they knocked off their big rivals, 18 points to 16. I remember that game well. Parramatta played quite shit in that game and they still got the chocolates, so that was good for Parramatta. Then they held on for their life on a Sunday afternoon. Very wet, very ordinary conditions, where they defeated the Sharks 14-12. I remember Blake Ferguson throwing one of the worst passes, one of the funniest passes I've ever seen in my life. It was like a ridiculous 30-metre pass in the wet. The ball just bounced. It was ridiculous. It's fucking hilarious as well. Then they were beaten by the Dragons, a desperate Dragons side, where they got beat 14 points to 12. Obviously, not a good game there for Parramatta, losing to the Dragons, but, sometimes you win some and you lose some. And it was Paul McGregor's last game as coach of the Dragons, so disappointing loss there for Parramatta. Then they were too good for a depleted Melbourne side, where they beat them 14 points to 0. They didn't have really anyone playing for them in that one, Melbourne. But, you can only play what's in front of you, and Parramatta were too good there, winning 14-0. Then they had probably the most disgusting, most embarrassing, most disgraceful, most ridiculous performance of the season, where they got smashed at Bankwest on a Thursday night against South Sydney, 38 points to 0. That was a pretty poor performance. That was their worst game of the year, in my opinion. Then they held on against the Warriors, 24 points to 18. Then they got, I remember this game, against Penrith, with our referee out of the game. They didn't even get a fair go with the referee in that one. They lost that game 20 points to 2, but I wouldn't take much notice of that game. They were pretty rorted out of that game. I remember coming on and doing the Friday Night Football review for that one, and I was pretty filthy about that game because the refereeing was disgraceful. So they weren't good enough against Penrith in that one due to a couple of disgusting decisions. Then they were too good for Brisbane, 26 points to 12. And then in the final round, they pulled off the ultimate miracle. They were down 24-16, and they scored 2 tries in the last 15 minutes to beat the West Tigers 28-24. And then in the finals, week 1, qualifying final, they went up to Suncorp Stadium to play Melbourne. They got beaten that one 36-24 after leading 12-0. And then they lost to South Sydney at Bankwest in the semi-final, 38 points to 24. Now, looking at this season, overall, I thought they had a really good year. Parramatta, I think they really stuffed up at the back end of the year. They started the season very well. The first half of the season, they were definitely one of the best teams in the game. They were a good chance of going all the way, probably from round 1 to round 13. They looked like the team that we all thought Parramatta were a good chance of winning the comp that year. They were a contender. And then they just, ever since Mitchell Moses got injured, they sort of fell into a heap a little bit, but I wouldn't say that's the reason why they fell off. I think they were probably a little bit too good at the start of the year. They just lost their confidence a little bit. They got a little bit too complacent for mine. But looking at some of their wins, their best wins and their worst losses, I'd say their best win would be their best win. Probably the game against Penrith where they were down 10-0 and they looked absolutely gone. And let me have a look here. I'm on the NRL app anyway. So here it is. 10-0 Penrith at half time. Parramatta scored 3 tries in 6 minutes. The 61st minute, Wagga Blake. The 64th minute, Clint Gutherson. And the 67th minute, Ryan Madison. That's probably their best win. Was probably against Penrith in round 5. Their worst performance was probably the game against Souths, where they got beat, 38-0. That was probably their worst performance of the season, in my opinion. And a couple other games, I think the one against the West Tigers, where they pulled off the miracle there, that was a pretty good win. That was a gutsy win. Another game where I thought they were really poor was the one against Manly in round 10, where they were a bit disappointing in that one. Another win was probably against Canberra. That was a very impressive win. So I'd say their best wins of the year, probably against Penrith in round 5, against Canberra in round 7, and probably against the West Tigers in the final round. Their worst loss, I would say their worst loss, was the one against South Sydney in what round was that? Round 16. But overall, I thought they had a pretty good year. Parramatta, they did well. They finished third, but they got to stop doing this shit, They got to stop being so good for a certain part of the year and then just come finals time, clock off. It's ridiculous. Parramatta have only won one finals game since 2009. They've only made the finals 3 times since 2009, 2017. They made the finals for the first time since 2009. They went out in straight sets. Then in 2019, they made the finals. They smashed Brisbane 58-0. And then they went out the next week against Melbourne. And then this year, they went out in straight sets again. So, to only win one finals game in the last 10 years or so is pretty fucked up, honestly. But having a look at some of their good players this year and some of their poor players, I thought Clint Gutherson was without a doubt their best player. Absolute standout. I thought he was absolutely terrific. If he wasn't there, Parramatta don't get anywhere near the top 4 in my opinion. I thought Regan Campbell-Gillard and Junior Paulo were very good. I thought Nathan Brown was solid. I thought Ryan Munnison had a really good season. I thought Reid Money was good when he was there. He had a few injuries, Reid Money, but I thought he was quite good. I thought Michael Jennings was very, very solid. I thought Dylan Brown was terrific. Some of the other players who I thought were good. I thought Kane Evans was decent. Who am I forgetting? Murata Niokore looked really good. Ray Stone looks pretty solid as well. Jai Field looked pretty good when he was playing as well. Didn't mind Jai Field. Some of their poor players, I thought Wanda Blake was fairly hot and cold. Thought he was average in my opinion. Thought Mike Acevo was a bit off the mark this year. I don't think he was as good as what he was in 2019. I thought Blake Ferguson was quite poor. He was definitely below his standards, which is a surprise. Blake Ferguson's normally a great player, but I thought he was pretty poor this year, Blake Ferguson. Mitchell Moses, I thought he was okay. Probably a 5 out of 10 for his season. Started well, but then drifted off towards the end of the season. I know he had a few injuries, but I thought he was very average at best. They had some really good players and some really poor players, Parramatta. I thought Michael Jennings was all right. I think they Parramatta for mine a pretty good season in the regular season, but I think they started the year too well. I think they won too many games at the start of the year. I think they peaked a little bit too early, Parramatta. They probably started the year better than what they wanted to, because here's the thing. When you win so many games at the first half of the season, you look at the draw, you go, it's all right, lads. 1 or 2 more wins out of 6 or 7 games, and we'll finish top 4, top 2. And the next minute you lose 2 in a row, you're thinking, oh, shit, look out. Canberra's coming up the ladder now. Look out, here comes South Sydney, Newcastle. It gets you a little bit nervous. If Parramatta had got beat last round, they would have finished in 5th position, which would have been pretty embarrassing for them, considering the season they had at the start of the year. So, they probably peaked a little bit too early for mine, but if I had to say their best player and their worst player, I'll say their best player was definitely Clint Gutherson. I thought he was absolutely outstanding. And their worst player, I hate to say it, but I think everyone will agree with this, Blake Ferguson. Thought he was really poor. Didn't score a try until like round 13 or something. I can't remember when he scored a try, but he was on a drought where he didn't score a try for a very long time, which was very surprising for a player like Blake Ferguson, who's won a grand final at the Roosters, played State of Origin, played for Australia, and, for him to go in a form slump where he didn't score a try for a very long time is very rare for Blake Ferguson, and I think he needs to get his defence right, along with Walter Blake. I understand Ferguson's been told that he won't be at Parramatta in 2022, so if you're going to tell him that now, you might as well fucking go now then. So, he was disappointing this year in my opinion, but if I had to give Parramatta season a rating out of 10, I'd probably give that season probably a solid 8 out of 10. I think a good first half of the year. They found enough wins to get to the top 4. They were lucky enough to finish in 3rd position. Disappointing to go out in the straight sets, but overall, I'd give that season probably an 8 out of 10. And their best player for mine, Clint Gutherson, and their worst player for mine was Blake Ferguson. But the other question is too, is Mitchell Moses the man to get Parramatta a premiership? They haven't won a grand final since 1986. It's been a very long time. Is Mitchell Moses the guy to lead Parramatta to a premiership? Because in my opinion, from what I've seen, the question I have for everyone here is Mitchell Moses overrated? He's been around for a fair while now. He knows what to do. Obviously, the game against Melbourne, he went missing when they were up 12-0. When you're up 12-0 against a quality team like the Melbourne Storm, your halves need to finish the game off. You need to take control of the game. 12-0 was a pretty decent lead, especially in the finals game. Might not be much against the Melbourne Storm, but 12-0 is a decent lead, especially in the finals game. So you need to take control, and especially the game against South Sydney in the semi-final. I know they had dramas going on with Michael Jennings at that point, and they had a couple of things going on there, but, Parramatta were down by 2 points at one stage in that game against Souths, and they missed a penalty goal. I think it was 20 points. I think it was 18-8 at one point, and Parramatta, Mitchell Moses went missing, and then it was 20-18 Souths. All Moses has to do is kick the goal, pretty much next to the post, to make it 20-all, and it's anyone's game. But no, he misses the kick, and then Souths end up winning the game, 38-24. So, is Mitchell Moses overrated? I would say yes, because he hasn't delivered for Parramatta. He's on pretty decent money. I'm pretty sure he's on more than $700,000 a season, so he's getting close to that $1 million market. But in my opinion, he's not even worth $1 million. I think he is a very overrated player, Mitchell Moses. I don't know if he can lead Parramatta to a grand final. I'll be honest with you, I doubt it. But, there needs to be a few big questions asked at Parramatta. I think there needs to be a couple of honest conversations with Mitchell Moses. If you're on $700,000 a season and you're missing a conversion to level the game, that is a very kickable goal. Honestly, you need to be questioned for that. That's ridiculous, honestly. But overall, Parramatta for mine, I'll give their season an 8 out of 10. Clint Gaveston for mine was their best player. Ferguson was their worst player. Is Mitchell Moses overrated? I'm going to say yes, but let me know in the comment section below. What do you guys think? Anyway, guys, you know what? That's going to wrap up my Parramatta Eels 2020 season review. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you guys go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch my videos. I really do appreciate it, guys. Thanks for watching. I'm out of here, and I'll see you guys in the next one.